Hey, hey, how's everybody doing today? Oh, Free Palestine. The purpose of the stream today would be to go through part two of the wiring. And essentially, what we're going to do now is pick up where we left off yesterday. We started off talking about there were some issues that I was struggling with, and I'm going to see if we can fix those issues, and also at the same time um, address some of the other issues with, basically make progress on the other items we had on our list. I think I have the, yeah, I think I have them here on this notepad. So set up, log in with Twitter. We'll do that later. But essentially retrieve all bookmark tweets, get full length tweets, generate the categories, and assign the bookmarks. Where we stopped yesterday was we had the Twitter route, which is fine. You can generate the authorization URL, but the second piece where we were trying to request a token didn't work. So that's what we're going to try and fix today. So let's go ahead and run npm run dev. See if we can fetch a token and then retrieve the my user. That's essentially what we want, and that will tell us that it's actually working. So I think we need to reauthorize this, and just move all these over here. Right. New mic, by the way. New mic. Actually, it's an old mic, but one that I had just lying around and wasn't actually using it. So I thought, hey, why don't I break it out and improve the audio quality here? All your bookmarks. Okay, let's authorize. Cool. So we got the code back. The next step would be to fetch the token somehow. And we do that using curl. We can actually just shoot out the curl request now. And I'm going to do that now in this other window just so I'm not pasting the whole token right there. All right, so fetch token. That's hopefully working. Oh, close with an error. And the error is bad request, missing required parameter code verifier. Interesting. I'm not sure if I had this issue before, like in the, let's see. Take a look at the old file and see if we had this issue before. I suspect we did not. All right. So index.js, yeah. So had all that, and essentially, like when you're trying to authorize using auth URL, you would just request the redirected callback, and see, the thing that's unique in our case is we're not using the same auth client. Like this is the same session, so the auth client already has some context, and presumably that would include this response that where's the error message? This error message, right? Missing required param code verifier. Presumably that's somewhere in the auth object, and it would have worked here, but it doesn't work in the setup that we have because the um, the original auth object the original client that we generate is not persisted. and we dispose of it, and then we essentially call fetch token on a new instance. And so that's why it's giving us this error message. Now, I want to understand like what is actually inside the auth object that we're missing, and can we somehow recreate that? And obviously, a big part of that is going to be the client itself, but how do you restore the client? Like, do you freeze the client, like marshal it, or I mean, is there another way that we can get this to work? I suspect maybe what you would need to do is called generate auth URL. Auth client. Okay. You can actually pass in a token to client. And is that what we're doing here? Let's see. No, it's not. So we need to pass the token into a new auth object, like pass the actual token into a new auth object. Um, okay, okay. I see, I see. So what you want to do is let's see if we can somehow marshal the response. Like, I want to inspect the client to see what information we have in here, and I suspect there's going to be some sort of code verifier, and figure out if there's a way that we can uh, freeze it and then bring it back. Yeah, freeze it and bring it back. Like you would typically do this using marshalling library, but let me just see. Are you still in debugging mode? Okay. All right, so go back to Twitter here. Oh, was it API? Yeah, API Twitter. Okay, so you got redirect URL. That's going to give you the redirect URL. Fine. But what I'm actually interested in is the auth object itself. And I want to dig into client. So token is undefined. Okay, so client is pretty much useless. Auth client is what you're after. And so if you do auth dot auth client, yeah, it doesn't have a defined token, which is fine. But do we have like, can you do JSON stringify? Yeah, it doesn't really tell you much. Auth client is empty, as is client itself. I mean, client just has a bunch of empty fields. And then you redirect URL. But when you load up auth here, you're passing in token. Well, you don't have token, so you can't really pass anything in. What you do have is client ID, client secret. Presumably, there's a way that we can, let's see, maybe we can try to kind of help us through this a little bit. Is this okay? And then just reference auth.js as well. So it's passing in route as well as auth.js. OAuth to PKCE. When you generate the authorization URL, you also need to create a code verifier and a code challenge. The code challenge is derived from the code verifier and sent with the authorization request. The code verifier itself must be sent with the token request to obtain the access token. Now we're getting somewhere. In your auth class, you're generating a code challenge, but it seems like you're using a static string called challenge, which is not correct. You need to generate a code verifier dynamically, derive a code challenge from it, and then store the code verifier for use when exchanging the authorization code for an access token. Here's how you can fix it. Generate code verifier and code challenge. Okay, so you need some sort of persistent storage. Um, yeah, presumably this would be some sort of cache or key value store, like short term. Yeah, key value store maybe that expires. In, here's an updated version of your auth class with these changes. Okay, okay, all right. So you, in addition to the token, you're going to need, okay, okay. I mean, all right, go ahead. Let's apply the changes. See if that gets us anywhere. So the big sort of change here is you want to make sure that you return, so you support initializing. So when it comes to verifying a token, or let's say fetching a token, you need to make sure that you're including the code verifier, and you need a way to access the code verifier, or rather set the code verifier. Since the two requests generate, generate auth URL, yeah, generate auth URL and fetch token are called in different processes. There is a way to pass the verifier. Provide the verifier in text. Pass it back later to the fetch method so it can be processed. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so return authorization URL and code verifier. And okay, all right. So code verifier just needs to be stored client side. You don't actually need to persist it server side. That's a good idea actually. Save you the trouble. Um, but it does mean you won't be able to access it in the background. If you store it client side, the expectation is that you're going to need to be able to supply this. Let's see what we got here. So generate auth URL generates the code verifier and the code challenge. And um, hmm, I didn't know you could do that. Code challenge method. Okay. And it's going to return a code verifier. I'm curious to see if code verifier is actually a string or an object. And then when you call request access token, you need to pass in the code verifier. Okay, so it is a string. Cool. Yeah, so you can accept these individually. Okay, all right. Instead of refresh token, why are you getting rid of refresh token? Is that just moving down? No, it's just getting rid of it. Don't. Don't get rid of get client either. And get token and all these. I mean, if they're remaining unchanged, why are you doing that? Doesn't make any sense to me. We call crypto here, but we don't actually call it anywhere. Oh, right. To add these methods. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah. So let's try that again. Oh, what is this? Yeah, let's just stop. Generate auth URL is going to return not just the URL, but the verifier. Uh, yeah, URL. You should call. So essentially, what would happen is you can't redirect anymore. You would need to store the verifier locally, and then you would need to pass it in future requests that you send. So any future request that you send, you want to verify, you need to store the verifier locally. So that's going to be auth URL and code verifier. And then you would just return that. Just send it as response. So not redirect, just send it as a response. Okay. And then on the client side, you're going to need to update that to store code verifier locally. I've already said that. I don't know why I'm repeating myself here. Anyway, cool. So let me just make sure that we get a verifier that's in string format. Right. Cool. Okay. All right. And I'm going to try updating this to accept not only the URL, but the verify. Code verify. You would need to pass that into fetch token. Okay. All right. Cool. So the response is not going to include the auth URL, but actually the URL response that we get back. So that's just something to keep in mind. There are two different URLs. All right. All right. All right. All right. So now we can just go to this URL, complete the authorization process. Copy the response back and then pass it into the post request that we send here, which we should be able to debug. Cool. And then just make sure that URL isn't empty. All right, so with any luck, missing required parameter code underscore verifier. Huh. Wait, I thought we already provided that. Auth client request access token. Okay. And we're passing in the code verifier. So we need to see request access token. Let me check the docs here. Now I was hoping it, yeah, I was hoping it would hit the docs. What is this? Hmm. Okay. Okay, so auth.auth user generate auth URL passing in a code challenge. Okay. And then where's the part where you actually request an access token? Okay, this part here. The problem is it's requesting an access token. Where is this defined? Request access token. Twitter API SDK. Please tell me that's somewhere. I mean, where's authentication? Request access token. Dear Lord. What is it? PKCE? Oh man, Twitter docs are just so bad. They're horrible. I mean, I don't know how they assume that you're going to have the same client. Like, how is that an okay assumption? Or are they assuming that, maybe if you open it in a new window, I guess that's possible. If you open it in a new window, um, and then when the window is completed, like maybe you can listen to changes in the window and then wait for it to get redirected back and somehow parse the resulting URL. I guess that's possible if you open it in a new window, right? Um, Let me see if it's possible to monitor a window. Are you serious? Ugh, I need to log into OpenAI again. This is ridiculous. When did it open? And then periodically checking the URL. Oh, okay. So send messages between windows of the same origin. Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I can see how that could work. But, I mean, doesn't it sound ridiculous? It's ridiculous, yeah. Ridiculous. But anyway, like right now, the only issue is how do you get, yeah, and Postman doesn't work, Glitch doesn't work. Do you even have a Postman collection that we can actually use? How do you download this crap? API v2, where's authentication? Uh, Authorization. Add token. Prepare bearer token. Prepare OAuth signature. Create random OAuth nonce. This is just ridiculous. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Don't lose hope. Let's just stay focused. All right. Maybe you could chat with. I guess what I really want is I just want to see the source code for the Twitter API SDK to see how I can pass in the code verifier. That's all I want. Like GitHub, Twitter API SDK. That's all I want. Okay. Let's just open this up. And what are you looking for? The refresh access token method. Okay, that's not here. Wonderful. Okay, that's the definition. It takes a token. Hmm. Auth to user options. Request options. What are request options? So from the request. Okay, just random stuff. It doesn't really. I guess that's a HTTP request options. But okay, so auth to user options, client ID, blah blah blah, and then token. Let's take a look at token. Where do you have code verifier? Okay. OAuth to user implements auth client. You have token, code options, and then code verifier. The hash presumably means that this is a private method, right? Ah, okay. Now we're getting somewhere. It's reading code verifier. Okay, all right. How do you set code verifier? So when you call generate auth URL, uh, it says if the method is S256 code challenge method, S256, that's what we do. Yeah. This would be lowercase. Then code verifier is blah, blah, blah. And then you set the code verifier and the code challenge. Okay. All right. Okay. This is making sense. This is making sense to me now. Code verifier and code challenge. So now all we need is a way to set or initialize code verifier and code challenge inside this object. So inside the auth client. This is, yeah, inside the auth client. So JS set private members in class. There's got to be a way to do this, right? Namespace cannot be constructor. Okay. It is a syntax error to refer to hash names from outside of the class. It is also a syntax error to refer to private properties not declared in the class body. Hmm. So this is so stupid. Like you can't set the code verifier yourself, but it is set when you call generate auth URL. But in this case, it's going to generate some random string and not the same thing that you actually want. Hmm. Wait, wait a second. This only happens, it only sets that if you do options.code_challenge method is S256, but otherwise, you could pass in code challenge and that'll work. Like what was the response I got back? Where is it? No. You can pass in the code verifier as the code challenge. So uh, you do generate auth URL, pass in the state, right? And yeah, okay. All right, so when you call fetch token with a code verifier, essentially what you would need is you would say um, if code verifier, then, or actually just drop code verifier, just do async set code. All that's going to do is it's going to say uh, generate auth URL with so you're going to have a code challenge and a verifier. Uh, the, the problem is it will override both. Code challenge method, and then it would only pass in the challenge. Okay. Ah, okay. All right, all right, all right. Let's try this. Let's try it and see. I mean, if you're not going to do the whole code verifier thing, you could just assume that you're passing in a code challenge, and the verifier is the same as the challenge. And so in this situation, you don't even need to do the whole verifier dance, right? You would simply set a challenge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would have been easier, actually. Let's undo all that stuff that we done earlier. Undo all of that, right? That'd make a lot more sense to me than all that crap. So all you really need to do is you need to pass in the code challenge, and you would set that um, based on, so generate auth URLs. Code challenge method by default is plain. Okay, nice. So all you need to do is pass a code challenge. So generate auth URL, passing the code challenge. Yeah, okay. So in this situation, you would just need to call generate auth URL before you call fetch token, right? Um, to set code challenge. Well, are you providing code challenge? Generate auth. Yeah, it's passing in code challenge as well as the state. All right. And then call passcode. Right. Okay. So when you call fetch token, this is only ever called. Okay. So yeah, with any luck, this would work. Like I know quite a bit more about this stuff now. And so when you call, so when you generate auth URL, you're just gonna get a URL back. Okay. Okay. yeah, let's test it again. So API Twitter. Yep, getting it. Does it say plain? Yeah. Challenge code challenge method is plain, right? Okay. Nice. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay, got the URL back. And now we can just pass the URL here and hopefully get a token back. Right. Okay, we got a token back, boys. We got a token back. Very nice. So what's that look like? Very nice. Okay, so can we use that token to get the user object? No way. Boys, this worked. Okay, this actually worked. This is fantastic. And now, so presumably the token also includes a refresh token. So you have the access token as well as a refresh token, and you're going to need to store both of those tokens. I mean, you'd store the token as a whole, and future requests that you make for this user would need to include the token. So fetch and save bookmarks, for example, could be initialized using token, and instead of passing the entire auth object, and then you would just initialize a new auth object, for instance, if you wanted. But the only important piece of information you need from the auth object is token, and then you can initialize your own sort of auth object if you like. Alrighty. Very nice. Very nice. Finally, right? We made it somewhere. It only took like over an hour, but what ifs? I think it's working, so that's what matters. Convex client provider. No, don't want to do any of that right now. All I really want to include is the uh, the stuff that we added to, I believe, API Twitter. Like there's gotta be a way to, okay, you don't actually do the user thing here. You can do it over there. Oh yeah. I mean, now what you want to do is authenticate. So you could actually just have, so what I'll do is create a new file called token.js or token.json here. And then pass in the stringified token just so that we can use it in the other requests. And forgive me for a second while I move this over outside of view just so that I'm not exposing my token credentials here. And Right, cool. So here's what I did. Since we're going to be authenticating via saved token here, um, we're going to initialize with the token that we import from a token JSON file, and then we'll request a new token. So we'll refresh the token. And I think this is async, right? So we need to do await, and then just write it to, so update the local token JSON file. I don't even know that you can do this in a function, but we'll see. Let's run that. So this is, so in this case, you wouldn't even need the URL. Like the URL is only really required if you're gonna do this. So we could skip that and just authenticate directly without the without the URL. So it's like an empty call. You don't have to pass anything. Right? Yeah. Let's start it and test it now. If this works, then we know that, there's we've got like end to end, everything's sorted. Let me just make sure this is okay. All right. Refresh token. Oh, we got an error. Refresh token is required. Yeah, I mean it would be sent. Oh, okay. I suspect what's going on is like we're calling request access token. It should be like this. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. So let me just, because I noticed this, like the JSON file actually has a token key inside it, and I thought that was like by design, but I think this is a mistake. So if we go back here, you should find that. Okay, so now we're just reading token directly. See if that works. Right. I'm gonna send an empty request. So we'll pass in token, this time token. Oh, I'm gonna share the whole token. So yeah, it has the refresh token, everything. Okay. Now when you call refresh token, we got a new token. Oh, okay. So refresh token also is indexed by that. So you probably want to do this again. And then you do, yeah, fs write file sync. That writes the new token. And just to make sure this works the next time around. Huh, not sure if this is correct. So let's try it again. When you call refresh token, yeah, let me just try this once more. So basically what we're doing now is we're verifying that we're able to uh, authenticate properly. Yeah, okay, so that's an error. Value passed for the token is invalid. Okay. So when you pass the token in, uh, okay, right. So instead of passing token, you're supposed to do this. That's why it didn't work. So you're supposed to pass the token in like that, because the constructor, yeah. The constructor expects, oh, it expects a token object. Okay. So you don't do this. So auth accepts a token object, and then you would call refresh token. Don't you need to call like generate, or when you call fetch token, you do generate an auth URL to initialize. I'm not sure if this is necessary. It might not be. I'm not sure. I mean, it just worked, so I don't think it is necessary. But let's just try this again. Let's try it again. Okay, make the request. So token is getting initialized. Okay, and then you're calling refresh token. And that calls. Okay, so I suspect the issue is that you don't want to. Where is it? Refresh token. You don't want to do that. You want to instead get like the actual token. Yeah, don't deconstruct token because you won't be able to. Value passed for a token was invalid. Yeah, I mean from all the requests, I guess it just got messed up, and so now we need to do it all over again using this technique here. So, but again, like you probably want to do a token here, right? You probably want to save it to token JSON anyway. Yeah, cool. So yeah, let's just make sure that we can run this. Now we're gonna authorize via URL once more. Do that by going to API/Twitter. Get a new token, write it to token.json. Okay. Okay. Um, right, so you got the token back. Very nice. Save it. And this is like proper. It's not indented or anything. And yeah, now you should be able to do all that. And if I do cat app/API, yeah, now I can see that the token was saved. And so now if I disable that and then just use token, we should be able to authenticate just fine. So let's, oops. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Anyway, we'll run it now and it'll cancel that last token so we won't have to worry about exposing my token here. All right, so send our empty request. Oh man, seriously? Value for token was invalid. And let's see if it's because of this. run it again. Okay, so first time around, we're going to pass the URL in. So let me do that right now. I don't understand why this isn't working. This was just working. Well, you passed for authorization code was invalid. You're reading URL from body and then calling auth.fetch token, passing in the URL, which generates the auth URL, passing in the challenge, and then parses the code from the return URL, and then calls request access token. So this here, it should be totally fine. Like there's nothing special about that call. Weird. I mean, that leads me to believe that maybe the auth request is not coming through. I don't know. API Twitter. Okay. Got the URL back. And now we just pass the URL through. Make sure we got URL specified. Okay. Call fetch token. You would have got a token back. Okay. And then, yep, return the token. Cool. So we are actually getting a token back. Cool. We're writing the token to a JSON file. All right. So, oh, but the JSON file is not getting saved here. Oh, it's going all the way up there. Do you see? Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. That would explain it. Cool. All right. That makes sense. I mean, we need to do this. Or maybe like you need to specify the full path, right? Yeah, possibly. Anyway, fetch and blah blah. So this will work. Or it should work. You're getting data. Yeah, you're getting data back. That's fine. All right, so that worked. And now you should be able to authenticate using the saved information. Um, oh wow, look at that. Very, very interesting. Yeah, you got all the bookmarks. Beautiful. All right, all right, all right. So now, um, we just need to authenticate. So now try authenticating using nothing, like just an empty message, and make sure that we can do that. So, I prefer if you stop the terminal, run it again, fetch your refresh token, and make this request one more time. Cool. I got a token back. All right. Okay. All right. That's the problem. So what I'm gonna do? Yeah, I mean that's fine. We can keep going. Let's do the right file sync. Is that creating? Oh, it's doing it all the way on the bottom. When what you want is like inside. So you need to do app/API/Twitter/token.json. Token file path. Okay, so just make sure that you're writing it to the right place. And then just make sure that we override token.json here with the correct file. Cool. All right. So let's try one more time. Now that we have it working, we need to try one more time to make sure that it is in fact allowing us to um, to authenticate using the refresh token. The refresh token is required. I mean, presumably it's there. Okay, all right. So it's actually nested. That's why it didn't work. So if I do RM and then nano, so just nano, paste that in. All right, so we can try now. Yeah, it was not nested properly. That's why it didn't work. So let's try that one more time. Cool, it worked, boys. It worked. And then, so let's just um, let's just go over that. Is it writing to the right place? Looks like. I mean, there's no other file here. And now when we call fetch and save, it works perfectly. Wonderful. That was fantastic. Just on the 1 hour mark there, but hey, we got somewhere, right? Um, so we're actually able to authenticate now, without having to worry about re-logging in each time, uh, using the saved in token. And we keep refreshing the token to make sure that everything is up to date. And we're able to fetch and save bookmark tweets uh, using, get this, like we're actually using social data for retrieving the text of the tweets themselves. And so that way it doesn't count towards our 10,000 tweet limit per month. So, man, we made progress. Uh, let's see, let's add some stuff. Convex. So we didn't do any of the spicy convex stuff, but we're able to retrieve tweets. So now we just need to figure out a way to return the tweets or like save them to convex, save the tweets to convex, and then so save the user to convex, save the tweets to convex, and then the UI just automatically takes care of updating itself because convex magic, right? Alrighty, alrighty, alright. Cool. Great place to wrap things up for now. I'll come back in